Tonight, at least 10 persons have been killed as suspected bandits attacked some communities in Benue State. President Muhammadu Buhari, in his last Democracy Day broadcast, promises to ensure credible elections in the 2023 general elections. As goodwill messages pour in from the nation's political class to mark Democracy Day, Nigerians are urged to hold on to the ideologies of June 12, 1993. And Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, warns of dangers posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine as trade ministers meet in Geneva. Tonight we begin with a story from Benue State where at least 10 persons have been killed by people suspected to be herdsmen. The killers were said to have invaded 2 communities in Opoku local government area of the state. The Benue State Police Command confirmed it mobilized more men and officers to the scene on getting information of the attack. However, the lawmaker representing Ado, Ogbadibu and Opoku Federal Constituency, Agbota, lamented the state of insecurity in the area. He said in a statement, "Growing up in Otokun district of Ado local government area, I knew Igama in Ojigo ward of Opoku local government area as one of the most peaceful communities in Benue South until recently when terrorists turned it to a cesspool of blood." Igama shares common boundary with Otokun. The local council chairperson has condemned the killing, which she described as a reprisal.
And they say they are over 200. That enter into that community around 7 o'clock this morning. And they destroyed all the property they made there, bring down, burnt all the houses. We have discovered 9 dead bodies now. But we are not, we didn't know whether we'll still find another one. So tomorrow, people will still go there to search. People will get more. And people don't get anyone again. They just come to the village today and they say there was no any new something. But around January, they have an issue. There is an issue between Fulani and Igama people. January. That January, they say that their cow enter into their farm. So I don't know what happened. At the long run, the 2 Fulani died. Then the Igama also died. Here I think I have settled the case. I called them. The Fulani said that they need their cough. That they need the cough of that person that died. And I've talked to them, they have accepted, we can't ourselves with the past, so in January. So since I didn't hear anything, up to today, that they call that Fulani are attacking the Igama people. And as I'm telling you now, they say they are still in Efeche. And Efeche, I don't hear any issue with them and Efeche. So really, I don't know what happened. I just called the soldiers and police to go to that place. But as I'm telling you, I don't know what is happening there.
From Benue to Sokoto, where no fewer than 50 persons were abducted by bandits. Victims were returning from a wedding ceremony of one of their colleagues in Sokoto from Gusau, or in Gusau from Sokoto. Midway to the journey, their vehicle developed a fault and was taken for repairs before the terrorists swooped in on the travelers, kidnapping 50 of them. Spokesperson for the victims has addressed the media in Sokoto when he raised concern about locals serving as informants for the terrorists.
It happens their motor get fall at Treta. After they get a mechanic for about 40 minutes, he assisted them get the motor repaired. They have started coming to Zampara within the Treta Bakura axis. Those kidnappers were ambushed them. Over 50 people were abducted, but alhamdulillah, more than 20 were escaped. Some with serious injuries, some with minor injuries. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. We have identified 30 members that were still in captive. Locally today, they use phones of those captives, about 5 of our members. They call us. After they call us, they only notify us they are with them. They hadn't intervened or seek for anything for now.
It is Democracy Day today, and President Muhammadu Buhari has challenged Nigerians to always remember the patriotic sacrifice of the heroes of democracy, an ideal he says must be preserved and protected. He said this during a nationwide broadcast to mark this year's Democracy Day, commemorating the restoration of democracy in 1999 and an honor of the sacrifices of the presumed winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, among others.
Nigerians.
It's the President's last Democracy Day broadcast as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it begins by highlighting the nation's challenging journey to uninterrupted democracy. It therefore asks Nigerians to ensure the 2023 general elections are peaceful in honor of the sacrifice of Chief MKO Abiola and others.
We must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy during 1993. Their patriotism and peaceful struggle should guide our actions, especially when it comes to electing our leaders and holding them accountable now and in future. Fellow Nigerians, this is my last Democracy Day speech as your president. By June 12, 2023, exactly 1 year from today, you will already have a new president. I remain committed and determined to ensure that the new president is elected through a peaceful and transparent process.
President Buhari commends the maturity exhibited by the political class during the primaries while assuring citizens of a credible electoral process.
I will therefore take this opportunity on this very special day to ask all candidates to continue running issue-focused campaigns and to treat opponents with dignity. The tone you set at the top will surely be replicated in your followers. Your right to choose your government will be preserved and protected. I am also promising you a free, fair, and transparent electoral process.
With a brutal killing at the St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, and citizens still held captive following the attack on an Abuja-Kaduna-bound train in March this year, amongst other security issues, President Buhari recommits to ensuring that justice is done.
On this special day, I want us all to put all victims of terrorist activities in our thoughts and prayers. I am living daily with the grief and worry for all those victims and prisoners of terrorism and kidnapping. I and the security agencies are doing all we can to free those unfortunate countrymen and countrywomen safely. For those who have lost their lives, we will continue to seek justice for their families against the perpetrators. For those currently in captivity, we will not stop until they are freed and their kidnappers are brought to justice.
With these promises by the president, all eyes are now on the federal government to walk the talk to further rebuild citizens' trust in their leaders.
There have been goodwill messages pouring in from across the country, top of which are presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. State governors and legislators have also had a message or two to commemorate the day.
Democracy Day in Nigeria is an opportunity to reflect on our journey as a country and highlight the gains and gaps so far. It is also a day to honor the sacrifice of winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential elections, Chief MKO Abiola. To commemorate this year's Democracy Day, presidential candidates of the two leading political parties have been reflecting on the occasion. On his part, the APC presidential candidate, Mr. Bola Tinubu, asked Nigerians not to lose faith in the nation as it will surely overcome its challenges. In a statement, Mr. Tinubu says, "Just like democracy finally won against dictatorship, I know that prosperity shall overcome poverty, peace shall outlast violence, compassion will conquer hatred, and goodwill defeats evil." His counterpart from the PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is challenging Nigerians to stay committed to the sacrifice of the heroes of democracy by ensuring good governance prevails. In a series of tweets, Mr. Atiku says, "Let's work together to fix our country and return the boom of days of yore. Let's kick out the APC. I stand with you all on the drive to reposition our country for greatness." Meanwhile, leaders of the country's legislative arm of government have also been sending out their messages to Nigerians on the occasion of Democracy Day. Senate President Ahmad Lawan says the day represents a milestone in the country's journey to entrench a democratic polity. In a statement personally signed by him, Senator Lawan says, on June 12, 1993, Nigerians proclaimed their preference for a democratic system that offers them good governance, freedom, and life more abundant. The statement reads in part, "As we march on in our democratic journey, we should always remember the tenets and rules of the game, respect the rights of others, and faithfully discharge our civic responsibility as important stakeholders in a nation-building project." For the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, this year's Democracy Day is historic, coming on the eve of the 2023 general elections. In other goodwill messages, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State says, "The ultimate goal of democracy is to improve the lives of the people." Still in the southwest, in Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun, in the spirit of the day, announced the committal of 6 prisoners from death penalty to life imprisonment and pardoned 40 others.
"I have approved the committal to life imprisonment of death sentences of 6 convicts. Furthermore, I have also approved the early release of 40 others."
In the same spirit, the Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has tasked Nigerians to uphold the ideals of the nation's founding fathers who fought for the realization of an independent country rooted in the values of justice and equity. Still in the South-South, in Bayelsa State, Governor Doye Diri has advised Nigerians to ensure they get their voter cards, as it is the weapon they need to elect the leader they want.
Nigerians should be ready with their PVCs to free themselves from the current leadership that has visited this country with hunger.
In the Southeast, Governor Hope Uzodinma explains that eternal vigilance over our current democratic process is a means of imbibing the lessons of June 12. And in the North Central, the Benue State's Governor, Samuel Otom, has urged Nigerians to be on alert against anti-democratic forces. Staying with the North Central, former APC presidential aspirant and Governor of Kogi State, Governor Yahaya Bello, in his Democracy Day message says, the nation's current leaders must not deviate from the visions of heroes past. Over to the Northeast, where Governor of Adamawa State, Governor Umaru Fintiri, has pardoned 6 inmates serving various terms in 5 correctional institutions across the state. According to the governor, the pardon is based on the recommendation of the Council on the Prerogative of Mercy.
In part 2, after the break, Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State resettles 2,500 IDPs in Kirawa, a border community with Cameroon, as part of activities marking this year's Democracy Day. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Lagos. Here are the stories making our headlines this hour. At least 10 persons killed as suspected bandits attack some communities in Benue State. President Muhammadu Buhari, in his last Democracy Day broadcast, promises to ensure credible elections in 2023. As goodwill messages pour in from the nation's political class, marking Democracy Day, Nigerians are urged to hold on to the ideologies of June 12, 1993. And Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, warns of dangers posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine as trade ministers meet in Geneva. Nigerians have been urged to share information with security agencies as part of efforts at tackling insecurity across the country. As much came from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, during our program on our Special Democracy Day program earlier today. Other guests said they want more intelligence-driven policing across the country.
It's the 5th Democracy Day celebration in the month of June, a day set aside to remind Nigerians of a day regarded as one where the freest election was conducted. It marks the beginning of the longest continuous civilian rule since Nigeria's independence from colonial rule in 1960. Commemorating the day, however, guests and speakers converge on Channels Television to discuss security concerns. On hand is the highest-ranking military officer of the Nigerian Armed Forces, General Lucky Irabor, who speaks on efforts by the military to protect Nigeria in spite of attacks across the country.
Just only the same week, you are talking about the war incident. In Kano, for example, given the intelligence available to defense and security agencies, we were able to botch what would have been the most catastrophic incidents within our country. And in that operation, we indeed recovered IEDs, that is improvised explosive devices making materials. We recovered large quantum of arms and ammunition and other materials which, of course, the criminals were intending to use in various parts of the country, including Abuja.
Other security experts at the event speak on intelligence-based policing, risk assessment, and solutions to insecurity.
Between 2009 to about 2014, this pattern was very common. That was at the beginning, following the death of Mohammed Yusuf, when Boko Haram went all out violent. This was their initial modus operandi. We could see it as a resurgence of an old tactics, And so perhaps what we did then to curb that before they changed tactics, we have to revisit that and see how to also deal with it decisively this time around.
The police cannot be everywhere at the same time. They may not understand the internal operations of some of these criminals in those locations. They need the involvement of the communities in policing those communities. And that's about community policing and even state police. That's all well and good.
The porous borders that we have, issues, conflict that is happening in the Sahel. And by the way, Sahel is now the new kind of war zone of the world. Our judicial system that unfortunately fails to arrest and punish offenders. People commit offenses and they're able to get away with it. And then, of course, our schools.
Nigeria is an agrarian nation. However, incidents of killing in farms has made many to abandon food production, but experts say this can be avoided.
There's a need for concerted effort towards behavioral change. Nigerians are beginning to, not beginning, it's there, right there in our culture, in our music, on Instagram, on social media. Everything points to an ostentatious culture, a culture that is pushing for, look at wealth, look at all the trappings of wealth without any explanation for where this wealth is coming from. I do think that the government, national orientation agencies, civil society organizations, all of us need to do a concerted push.
Now, with climate smart agriculture, it does not have to move its cow from Kano, Katsina, Jigawa, wherever to any place. There are now creative innovations that allows him to grow the food that the cows will eat year round. The same thing, that is part of growing more food with less land and less inputs.
A debate driven by reason and purpose. Reason to understand what the issues bedeviling the nation are, and purpose to chart a way to bring about the much-needed peace.
In the meantime, some eminent Nigerians have visited the MKO Abiola family compound in Lagos, better known as Nigeria's Democracy Center, by the June 12 movement to celebrate the June 12 Democracy Day this year. Our correspondent Dari Du reports.
This is the residence of Chief MKO Abiola, the man recognized as the hero of Nigeria's democracy. The auditorium is filled with the usual host, family members, members of civil society organizations, religious leaders, and other familiar faces who have fought for the recognition of June 12 and what it stands for in Nigeria's democracy. The discussion is centered around the political views, sacrifice, and ideals of the man being celebrated here.
Oil, crude oil, which is fast going away, of Nigeria's former over 300 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve, which we are flaring every day, flaring over 80 to 95%. In another 10 years, my fellow compatriots, we will be hungry because there will be no body requiring your oil. So in memory of Chief MKO Abiola, we should go back to brass tacks and get ourselves a new constitution.
And so we have a collective duty to rebuild democracy. Almost in the way that Chief MKO Abiola's candidacy made us forget all those funny things we like to pretend that we care about. Ethnicity, religion, this, that.
It's a political season, and an event like this attracts players in politics and also calls for a reflection on issues facing the nation.
All we can do today is what I've told people while I was on my way here, is to reflect and examine our lives as Nigerians and ask ourselves questions. For what he sacrificed for, where are we today? For all he wanted to do for Nigeria, where are we today? I think he was the first person that made me to vote in Nigeria.
My take from this gathering is that a lot has been said to repeat, the history and exactly all of the things, that happened prior to the election of Basharun, MKO Abiola, and the subsequent events.
They gather around the tomb of the renowned businessman and politician. They chant in unison like they've always done for so many years.
29 years after, God has preserved many of you who fought so valiantly, so sacrificially, and many of you are here today.
The laying of wreath marks the end of this year's event at the compound of the man many believe paid the ultimate price for Nigeria's democracy. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
Political activities are heating up to select Nigeria's next set of leaders amidst another Democracy Day celebration. Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Dr. Matthew Kuka, says the process of recruitment of such leaders has been done the wrong way. He told Channels Television's Ladi Akedulale on our current affairs program Newsnight that given the indices used to measure success and governance, the results could not have been different. Bishop Kuka also says the debate over the validity of the 1999 Constitution may simply be begging issues.
If you don't have, when people talk about recruitment, recruitment is a function of many things. And by the way, when we talk about zoning, the simple language is that we are zoning corruption. We are not zoning governance. We are zoning corruption. And Nigerians have gotten to a point in which, you know what? We are not looking. Nigerians have made peace with the fact that politics is what it is. That is that it's about theft of state resources. And they expect you to come to Abuja, and they will blame you for coming to Abuja and coming back with nothing. So the Senate president cannot go back to his constituency and say, these are the number of bills that I have sponsored. Okay? They are in the National Assembly. They are supposed to be making laws. So the point is, when women say we want a bit of this action, everybody who wants to participate in this process in Nigeria just wants a bit of the corruption. We have no moral argument about the essence of going into power. So let our own man also, our woman also get into this thing and participate. The processes that ought to have brought us to where we are, we went by the wrong route. That's why today we are still debating about our constitution. Because as a turnover of what the military did, which is the center of the debate about the constitution, that they handed us a constitution. Although arguments are, and if you speak to General Abdul Salam, he will tell you, some of us with memory still remember, that the military didn't just hand over a constitution. The military said under Nick Itobi, here, go, run around, find out from Nigerians what they want. Nigerians came back and said, we want the 1999. Whatever it is, we don't know. But do constitutions by themselves guarantee good governance? Does having a Bible mean you go to heaven? Does having the Holy Quran mean you go to heaven? We don't know. So there is a conflict that we have not defined what the essence of participation in government is all about.
You can watch the full interview with Bishop Kukah on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, June 13, 2022, at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Still ahead on the news at 10, though. 6 candidates in the forthcoming Ekiti governorship election square up in a televised debate organized by Channels Television to sell their agenda to the citizens of the state. We'll join us again from Welcome back. The calls for a more unified nation were re-echoed today at the Democracy Day service held at the National Christian Center in Abuja. The service was part of activities marking Nigeria's 2022 Democracy Day. In the Vice President's speech read by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Professor Yemi Osinbajo highlights resilience of the Nigerian, recounting how as a unified force, Nigerians have been able to surmount various challenges. According to the Vice President, the challenges facing the country now will also be surmounted if Nigerians put up a unified front.
No matter how challenging the situation or moment might be, there is always enough God-given strength within us as a people to surmount them. Nigerians have always risen to the occasion when it mattered most. We rose to the occasion when colonial powers subjugated our people and lorded over our resources. We rose to the occasion following the ravages of a civil war to rebuild a united country, no matter how imperfect. We rose to the occasion when enduring military dictatorships pushed us to the edge of extinction and negotiated our way into a democracy that provides a platform for us to build a country we can all be proud of. And we have come this far because of all of us. From the north to the south. Our democracy was hard on by Nigerians from the trenches of the 6 geopolitical zones. Our struggle for a better country
has always been detribalized.
One more story on Democracy Day 2022, this time from Borno State, where Governor Babagana Zulum has resettled 2,500 residents of Kirawa, a border community with Cameroon in Gwoza Local Government Council, after 7 years of displacement. The governor supervised the distribution of the 100,000 naira to each head of household, 20,000 naira to the spouses, as well as food items and provisions.
Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum sets out to Kirawa, a border community with Cameroon in Gwoza Local Government Council of the state. His mission in Kirawa is to resettle over 2,500 residents displaced for 7 years because of the Boko Haram insurgency. The governor is accompanied by the chairman, Resettlement Committee, and other officials to distribute 100,000 naira to each household, as well as food items.
Today, we have witnessed the return of peace to Kirawa, and government has provided food and non-food items to the returnees. A total beneficiary of about 2,500 have benefited from this scheme. And so far, so good. Male heads of household will receive the sum of 100,000 each, a bag of rice, and then 25 kg bag of maize, while all the female, the wives of the returnees will receive 20,000, a mat and a rafa.
We took a profile of Kirawa IDPs, and we found out about over 1,000, but so far we provide 987. And now today, we are here to provide them with the food and non-food items.
While commending the internally displaced persons for deciding to return home, Governor Zulum says the only way to defeat the Boko Haram insurgency is through strengthening the resilience of the returnees.
I'm calling upon the community to be resilient, to be strong enough, and to resist all attempt by Boko Haram and ISWAP members to displace them again. Let them provide enough support to the Nigerian army. Let them provide enough support to the MNJTF, and let them also provide enough collaboration to the CGTF in the areas of supplementing the airport, as well as in the areas of providing intelligence to the military as well as to the civilian population.
The Borno State government has so far profiled and returned over 100,000 households displaced by terrorists to their communities.
Some candidates in the forthcoming governorship election in Ekiti State have been speaking about their plans to improve the economy of the state and well-being of the people if any of them is elected as governor. One of the issues that came up during a live TV debate organized by Channels Television is a huge debt of pensions and gratuities owed to retirees in the state. The candidates of the African Democratic Congress, the Action Democratic Party, and the All Progressives Congress spoke about their strategy to solve the problem of delayed payment of workers' entitlements and how they intend to clear the backlog of over 10 billion naira in arrears of pensions and gratuity.
Since the inception of administration, 2018 till now, we pay pensioners the same day we pay civil servants in the states. But gratuity is the big elephant in the room. And through creative financial management and interaction with financial institutions, 10 billion is just a number, and I don't think it's something that will be too difficult to creatively find a way of paying. But the truth is that that obligation cannot be met from the current recurrent expenditure of the state. So one must think out of the box to ensure that we engage experts and also peer review states that are doing well in gratuity management so that we can deflate that. But as pension is concerned, we pay pensioners the same day we pay civil servants in Ekiti states. So creatively, we deal with the 10 billion gratuity, and then pension will continue to pay pension the same way we be paying them.
I was a civil servant in January, and I think our parents need to be re-sensitized. Please, parents who are due for pensions, 3 months before your retirement, start processing it. What I'm going to do differently is that you don't need to go and rush and queue for what you are due for. The moment you process your document, you are going to be getting your alert immediately as you are leaving office. That is what I am going to do for Ekiti pensioners. Your money has been accumulated. It's taken from your salary monthly. And it's a accrued sum that's supposed to be giving you. Some of these governments, our fathers here, they just put it in fixed deposit account and they are making money, huge sum of money from it monthly.
Nobody should retire and wait years before they get their gratuity. We will correct that, set up a proper pension fund that will manage these people's pension. And as far as I'm concerned, what we should do is everybody should receive their pension every day, every month like a salary. And then we will have to find money to pay all the arrears that are owed these people. But that will now depend on a lot of things. We need to generate funds. We have to create wealth. But we would dedicate a fraction of whatever we earn now, either as part of our IGR or part of whatever we receive, wherever we receive it from, to start paying arrears as a commitment to those people who have served the government, and those arrears must be cleared before the end of 2 years. That will be a target that I will look at.
Staying with the Ekiti governorship debate, candidates of the People's Democratic Party, the Social Democratic Party and the Young People's Party have rolled out their economic plans for Ekiti if voted into office in next weekend's governorship race.
Most importantly, we intend to boost the economy of Ekiti State from the agricultural sector. That will create employment. And by the time we are able to invest in, like I was trying to say the other time, in the Igbema rice, the cassava, the maize, we will be able to invite people to come and have cottage industries in Ekiti State, through which we can generate more resources, funds, and through which we can also create employment. And I want to assure you, the most important thing is to have a stable security in Ekiti State. Investors will not come if we are not able to secure lives and properties. It's going to be the first thing that will enable people, that will entice people to Ekiti State to come and invest. We will invite people to invest in the rice sector, in the cassava sector. Industries will spring up. We will start having rice, efala gari, like you have gari, the Igbema rice, and all that there and there. Those are the areas where we can boost our economy.
First, we will introduce new revenue lines. We are bringing in revenue out of security situation. And I can tell you, if we do, it will surprise people the potentials of this. We are also going to ensure that investment that we had projected before that we were not able to realize because we left suddenly in the area of green fuel become live. We want to make Ekiti the capital, the Africa capital of green fuel. It is doable. We have raw materials. We can produce enough cassava, and together with our neighbors, we have very, very good soil for sweet sorghum. So we will generate a lot from green fuel.
First of all, I think one of the major problems we have, I was former commissioner for budget, so I understand the nature of the finances of the state. We've never really done anything to support the private sector in Ekiti. They only know the relevance of government when it's time to collect taxes. We're going to do everything possible to make our private sector vibrant, prosperous, so that tax revenue to government can also increase. The prosperity of private sector is the prosperity of government.
So private sector is a top priority area for me. Bringing in investors as an actuary, as a global person, I have the capacity and the profile to attract investors into Ekiti. We are no longer going to use debt capital to develop Ekiti. We are going to use private equity, henceforth, to develop Ekiti. And we're going to collaborate with our diasporans who have vast resources.
Nigeria's renowned influence on the international stage has been questioned for some time now. Whether or not the nation still commands the respect of the international community remains arguable among experts as we continue our review of the nation's democracy in regard to foreign affairs. In the year 2021, Nigeria, like many other countries in the world, was still battling the COVID pandemic. But as borders reopened, shuttle diplomacy resumed. In September 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari joined other world leaders for a hybrid UN General Assembly, where while he thanked leaders for their efforts at providing developing nations with the COVID-19 vaccines, he called them out on vaccine inequity. Nigeria asserted her role as big brother by also calling out the forceful overthrow of democratic governments in Mali, Niger, Guinea, and the failed coup in Guinea-Bissau.
There are no easy solutions to these conditions. They require long-term investments and more effective international cooperation.
In November, the president attended the COP26 Leaders Summit in Glasgow, Scotland, where he pledged that Nigeria will cut its emissions to net zero by 2060. Perhaps one of the most significant proof of the country's continued influence in Africa and the world was when U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken paid a state visit to the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where he announced America's foreign policy statement towards Africa.
What happens here in Nigeria is felt around the world. And that, in a nutshell, is why I've come to Abuja. The United States knows that on most of the urgent challenges and opportunities we face, Africa will make the difference. We can't achieve our goals around the world, whether that's ending the COVID-19 pandemic, building a strong and inclusive global economy, combating the climate crisis, or revitalizing democracy and defending human rights, without the leadership of African governments, institutions, and citizens.
As the crisis in Tigray, Ethiopia, worsened, the African Union appointed former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo as special envoy to help find lasting solution to the crisis. The former president met with all sides in the conflict, including leader of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, in an attempt to broker peace. President Muhammadu Buhari himself had attended the inauguration of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in October, where he encouraged him to continue to work for the peace and stability of Ethiopia. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has dominated headlines across the world since February, forcing African leaders to call for peace. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, condemned the killing of Ukrainians and called for leaders of both countries to work towards peace. Nigeria also became preoccupied with evacuating her citizens, mainly students from Ukraine, as fighting intensified. The first batch of Nigerians boarded flights headed back home by early March, following a couple of memos informing students where and what to do.
How are you?
Months after, Nigeria's foreign missions continue to help Nigerians who decided to remain in Eastern Europe to resettle in schools to continue their education. Following the demise of the UAE President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan in May 2022, President Buhari was one of the few African leaders who paid a visit to the new president, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to express his condolences and to discuss the growth of strategic partnerships and counterterrorism cooperation. President Buhari has begun counting down to the next transitional government when the presidential election holds next February. All eyes will be on the nation to see whether Africa's giant can uphold the tenets of democracy she so widely preaches. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo will, on Monday, June 13th, join Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo and other political and business leaders for a two-day Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan, the Ivorian capital. The forum, which is Africa's largest private sector event, features conferences, debates and high-level meetings dedicated to highlighting the role of the private sector towards the development of the continent. Professor Osinbajo will be discussing the topic, economic sovereignty from ambition to action. Other dignitaries expected at the event are the United Nations SG's Special Advocate on Inclusive Finance for Development, Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, and the Managing Director of the International Finance Corporation, Mactar Diop, among others. In other developments, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says the world is facing a polycrisis characterized by the lingering COVID pandemic and food and energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. Dr. Iweala was addressing a news conference following a meeting with more than 100 trade ministers in Geneva, in which she expressed cautious optimism that the ministers would achieve one or two global deals this week.
The world has changed since the last one. I wish I could say for better, but it's certainly become more complicated. I've never seen in my lifetime so many conflicts at the same time. And I've spoken so much about this because it's pretty unusual. We're still trying to cope with a pandemic that has cost the world millions of lives. We have an international security crisis with the war in Ukraine. We have a major food crisis, an energy crisis, and we have an ongoing climate change crisis. So this polycrisis or simultaneous crisis is really unprecedented. We may have a lot of dossiers, a lot of potential. I don't know if we can land all of them, but if we land one or two, I think that's success. But let me be clear, even landing that one or two will not be an easy road.
Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Dmytro Senik says the country has established two routes through Poland and Romania to export grain and avert a global food crisis. He says global food security is at risk because Russia's invasion has halted Ukraine's Black Sea grain exports, causing widespread shortages and soaring prices. Ukraine is the world's fourth largest grain exporter and says millions of tons of grain are sitting in warehouses and Ukrainian ports unable to be exported due to the war. Meanwhile, British Foreign Office has confirmed a former British soldier has been shot and killed in Ukraine, and it is supporting the man's family in the country. Jordan Gately left the British Army in March and travelled to Ukraine. His father, Dean Gately, said in a Facebook post his son died in the battle of the eastern city of Severodonetsk, which has seen intense fighting in recent days. France's Marine Le Pen has thanked supporters for giving her more than 55% of votes in her constituency and called on voters to deny President Emmanuel Macron a majority. Earlier today, the president had been projected to lose his majority in the country's National Assembly elections that put him neck and neck with a left-wing coalition. According to French TV, Jean-Luc Mélenchon's left-green alliance was on course for 25 to 26% of the vote, similar to Mr. Macron's Ensemble. The president faces a battle to win 289 seats to retain his majority. Turnout was set to be historically low at 47% in the first of two rounds.
Left firebrand Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
In sports news, Nigeria Professional Football League, Rivers United have extended their lead at the top of the table to 10 points with 5 games left to play this season. The Pride of Rivers this evening defeated Abia Warriors 2-1 for their 21st win of the season from 33 games and are on 70 points to their closest rival. Plateau United lost 2-1 to Shooting Stars and are on 60 points from same number of games. Lagos-based team MFMFC are still rooted bottom after suffering their 16th loss of the season to host Katsina United. 7-time champions Enyimba International beat Kwara United 3-0. Sunshine Stars defeated Niger Tornadoes 2-1. There were also home wins for Lobi Stars, Akwa United and Nasarawa United. Team Nigeria has entered the African Senior Athletics Championships in Mauritius with 5 gold medals. Chukwuebuka Enekwechi earlier today handed Nigeria its 5th gold in the men's shot put event with the season's best and championship record of 21.20 meters, erasing his previous record of 21.08 meters set in Asaba 4 years ago. Mike Edwards won his first medal for Nigeria, clinching silver in the men's high jump with a jump of 2.15 meters. Nigeria also ended the final day of the championships, winning bronze in 4x400 meter relays. The quartet of Deborah Oki, Queen Usonobun and Patience Okon-George pipped Botswana to 3rd place, while Johnson Namani, Chidi Okezie and Adeyemi Sikiru and Emmanuel Ojeli got round the baton to also win bronze in the men's category. And the main news again. At least 10 persons were killed in the early hours of today as suspected bandits attacked some communities in Benue State. According to the chairman of Opoku local government area, the attack may have been a reprisal by the herdsmen over a clash with some farmers a few months ago. President Muhammadu Buhari today promised to ensure credible elections in 2023. The president gave the promise in a broadcast to the nation to commemorate Democracy Day. And the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has warned of dangers posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine, among others, as trade ministers meet in Geneva, Switzerland. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.